All right, everybody, it's scratch art time. In high school and after, this was my favorite art medium for a while. So I hope you have fun with it as well. There's a few things that I think you should pay attention to before we even get started, okay? And I'm going to go through these as I work too. But one thing is the direction of lines. So in your animal artwork here, you're going to notice that the picture shows the fur of the animal, and if you look really closely, the fur is going in different directions depending on where the fur is located on the animal. So over here, the fur is going in this direction. Up here, the fur is going this direction. Over here, it's going this direction, and it flows, like it changes direction gradually in different places. And so one of the things you're going to have to pay attention to is that direction of the lines. You're going to need to pay attention to the length of lines. In certain places of the animal, the lines are going to be really short, especially like on the bridge of the nose right here, perhaps, or right around the corners of the nose or the corners of the eyes. It's going to be really short. And then in other places, like in the forehead, by the ears, and the cheek area, it's going to be longer. The lines will be longer there. More lines make lighter value. So if you want an area to be lighter, you're going to make a lot of lines in that area. Less lines make an area darker. So if you want an area to stay dark, you're not going to do as many lines in that area. And when you do lines, you might make them more delicate and thin. Then finally, hop around. And I'm definitely going to talk about that throughout the video. But basically that means don't stay in one area too long when you're working. You don't want to just continue working in the same area the whole time. You want to jump around so that you can map out the different directions that the lines are going in different areas before you get too far into it. And you can see all of the artwork come together at once, and you can compare how different areas are looking with other areas as you build it all up together. But if you just focus on one area, then you're not able to compare with how it looks with the rest of it because the rest of it's not done. And if you stay in one area too much, you might accidentally mess up the direction of lines. You might forget that the line changes direction. So it's important to hop around. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I have mine here, and I cheated a little bit for the sake of time in doing this demonstration. So I can't claim all of this as my own work. You aren't allowed to do this, but I just took the photograph and I cut it out and I put it on my board, and I did the same process that you did as far as scribbling on the back of this paper, and I traced all the lines, and then hopefully I see a very faint outline of my drawing. Now you guys drew it, but like I said, I cheated a little bit by just using the photograph because I wanted to save time, but you're not allowed to do that. You have to use your drawing, okay? While I'm working, I'm going to have my photograph handy. I want to see it and observe it the whole time. I don't want to just have this laying in my drawer somewhere while I'm working. I want to see what this looks like and work with it at the same time, okay? This tool is the scratching tool that you're going to use. And it's kind of diamond shaped, and some people might think that you're supposed to use it like a knife, but not really. You're actually supposed to use it more like a rake. You're supposed to drag it across like a rake. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to start in an area that is relatively easy. So that place might be like, in this area, or in this area, this area. these areas. Areas that are a little bit harder and more complex that I maybe don't want to start in if I'm not feeling confident is the eyeball itself, because that's going to take really, really fine lines. Other areas might be detail areas like the nose, where lines change directions a lot or really fast. So to get comfortable with what I'm doing, I'm going to start in one of those easy areas. And I'm simply going to start laying in scratch marks, scratch lines, and I'm going to pay attention to the direction, like I said, and the length. So I'm gonna mostly have them be the same length that I see in the photograph. And I'm gonna do a lot more lines in that area, but before I do, I want to do other areas too. Like I said, hop around. Now, for me, it's much easier if I turn my artwork. So it might not be as good for you to view that angle, but that's the way I'm gonna do it, so that I can pull. I want to pull the line towards me. That's easier. That's a more comfortable motion for me. So I'm going to jump around and I'm going to do some of these different areas. And what I'm doing is I'm mapping out the direction of the lines in different spots. Over here the lines are a bit shorter looking to me, so I'm going to pay attention to that. Notice how my lines are not super close together yet. They're just kind of spread out. There's gaps. I'm going to get to those. Right in this area where that's the bridge of the nose, it looks to me like the lines had changed directions a little bit. So I'm going to try and indicate that before I get too far into this. So the direction these lines are going is much different than the direction these lines are going. So that's the kind of thing that I want to pay attention to. And so there's going to be a transition between this and that. And I want to try to pay attention to how that's going to work. I want to see that they're kind of converged together right here. This is a generally darker spot in my animal, but it's still going to have some lines. So I kind of faded that direction in. I'm going to go to a different area now because again I'm trying to map out the different directions that are happening. I'm going to go below the eye here and notice the direction these lines are going in. They're a bit shorter. Okay, in this area the hair is doing a funny thing. It comes up, and so there's kind of a section that's going one direction and there's a section that's going another direction, and in some cases it sort of looks like they bend and curve. So this is a tricky spot, but I'm going to try to lay in a few of them so I can try to indicate how that's working. In this section of the nose, really fine lines, and the directions kind of go in different directions, it seems like. That's what I'm seeing. So I'm being conscious of that. They're really short. They're kind of matted together, changing directions a lot. But it's not a very light area either, so I got to be careful not to do it's not a very light area, so I have to be careful not to do too many scratch marks. Okay, hopping around again. In my photograph, these areas are a little bit blurrier and the lines are indistinct, not very defined, but I'm going to use my best judgment about what the rest of the hair is doing in other areas and what I can kind of see from that area to inform me about what direction the lines should be going and what the length should be. As I start to fill in certain areas a little bit more, I need to be careful not to overdo one spot and then underdo another one. So sometimes I have to be more specific in placing my lines so that they are filling in gaps that need to be filled in, or not making too many lines in a certain area that it becomes too light. I might go back to certain areas and start making them lighter so that I don't lose track of them. I don't want them to get lost. Certain shapes are supposed to be a lot lighter than others, and so the idea is that I just don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose where that is, because I had drawn them before, but if I don't indicate them better with darks and lights, then I'll lose sight of them. For the most part, the direction that I'm going with my lines too is kind of pretending that I'm starting at the base of the hair and then moving towards the end. Because the end of the line gets thinner, start of the line is a little bit thicker, which kind of mimics what hair does, right? So after I am really sure about certain places in the direction and the type of line that's involved, then my focus becomes more on filling it to achieve the correct value, the correct dark or light level. And so that's what I'm starting to do in certain places. I'm confident in the type of line and the direction. I've already kind of mapped it out. I just need to do more of them. And these are usually, right now at least, are the really light areas in the fur of the animal. So I'm just kind of slowly building it up to be the lightness level that it's supposed to be. I can kind of dig in a little bit harder too. Sometimes I'm being really soft when I scratch across the surface. Other times I'm taking out kind of a stronger line, a bolder line with it. When you get comfortable with it, you can do stuff like that. All the while, I am continually looking at my resource image, back and forth between my artwork and the picture I found. When I get really close to a really defined shape that has a really clear outline, I want to be careful around those spots. Okay, you guys, so this is far from done, but it's a good start. And I want to end the video now so it's not too long. I'm going to make another one to finish this project up. But here's the takeaways that I'd want you to pay attention to, once again, to get started with this artwork. Hop around to different areas of the artwork continuously. Don't spend very much time in one area to start with. And you're doing that because you want to identify and establish the direction of lines in different areas, the length of lines in different areas, and you want to start kind of indicating places that are lighter and darker. There's lots of areas that I haven't even touched yet, and so I need to do that. I've been saving the eye, even though I did say to hop around, right? I've been saving the eye because the approach to the eye is going to be a little bit different than some of the other areas. Same thing with the nose. The approach is slightly different. But pay attention to these things as you get started. Direction, length. More lines make lighter value. Less lines make darker value. And while you're doing all that, hop around. Okay? Good luck getting started with this, you guys.